I, Obed Giri, swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing else but the truth. So help me God.
Yes, I, Morgan Makina, swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing else but the truth. So help me God.
I, Pius Makaya, swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing else but the truth. So help me God.
This is Togo to this Rwanda. Swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing else but the truth. So help me God.
Thank you very much. I will start to form the visitors in the committee that is the honorables who were elected by the people to make sure that we do our job. During the exercising of the legislative, representative and oversight function, the thematic committee of indigenization empowerment, the main aim is to ensure that citizens in the respective communities are empowered and they benefit much from their God-given national resources. This will make Zimbabwe attain its ambition of empowered upper middle income society by 2030. Therefore, it is in pursuit to this crucial mention that we had decided to call you today so that you furnish the honorables, the senators of the thematic committee on the various empowerment programs your ministry currently undertaking for different groups. The challenges you are facing and probably legislative gaps and possible areas of the cooperation with the thematic committee. Feel free. Yeah, it's not a court, rather it is just a progress interaction between the committee and your ministry offices official. Thank you very much. We will start with our visitors, as we call them, to come here to make sure that they present. I think everyone they given their copies that they can present. Then I think the agenda we already told everyone that what is agenda. So we're taking from here. Thank you. I'll give the Minister of Land and Agriculture.
Thank you, Honorable Moyo, the chairperson, and thank you, honorable members. We appreciate you calling us to the Indigenization Empowerment Committee. We are really, I think we are one of the few privileged to be able to fit in within your purview. So let me also acknowledge the Chief Director who has just walked in, the Chief Director for mechanization, very critical also for what we are here for, Engineer Zimunga. To start with, your ministry is seized with the build-up to the economic prowess of this country. I'm sure we all know that our country is an agricultural economy, although we see mines which also, everything that's mined comes from the land. In some countries, they call it the Ministry of Lands and Mines. We separate, but essentially, we are in agricultural-based economy. Let me also say that in Africa, most of the economies are now navigating towards building up their agricultural economies. Nigeria included, they depended a lot on this oil, but now they are seeing the importance of agriculture and coming to learn from Zimbabwe. So it is critical that you also understand the wealth that can be created from agriculture, noting that our country is essentially divided into urban and rural, and the rural population accounts for 70% of the population, or maybe 62, some people, but many more of our people stay in the countryside than they are in the urban. When it comes to holidays, everyone, even those in urban areas, they go to the rural areas. So the rural economy is critical. We need to be able to build that up. And of course, most of you honorable members, you depend for your political life on the rural vote, which I will try to explain to you how you can also tap into that so that you survive our conditions. But it is also important to note that the agricultural sector ordinarily accounts for 10 to 12% of our GDP. That's huge. If we put together also if we account for the agricultural contribution to manufacturing and agrotourism, we get to more than 30% contribution to GDP. It is a fact that agricultural development will lead to rural industrialization, and rural industrialization will lead to rural development. And that is key to understand. If we don't develop our agriculture, there will not be rural development, and we would have killed an economy that accounts for 62% at least of our population. So that is critical. The way we want to develop our rural areas is to really ensure that those people in the rural areas become economic participants, not just economic spectators. They must be included in what we do, what we craft. They must be economic participants, and that is critical. I will just start by also giving an example of how we are thinking in the ministry, so that you understand when we talk about rural development in our ministry and economic empowerment in our ministry, we really mean that the things that we see in towns must also be seen in the rural areas. If you go to Chivu right now, just after Chivu, there was Chivu Dam constructed there. We said that a dam cannot be the project. The construction of a dam, putting a dam wall, can never be a project, because that's just putting a dam wall. The same way as we just put Tubul Kosin, we put a dam wall there, and that's it. But if you go to Chivu Dam, you will see that the dam wall is there. The contractor was also given to say you only be complete when you put 120 hectares of irrigation. Suddenly, 60 families become economic participants. They have a livelihood emanating from the 60 hectares or the 120 hectares of irrigation. Not only that, water is now being taken to Chivu town. So now they have clean water. Never mind about efficiencies, but at least the piping is there, the water can get there. in the dam, fish was put for the community. Now, here is where rural development really comes to the shore, where you say, out of these 120 hectares, so what? They grew wheat the first time, produced 600 tons of wheat. The wheat went to GMP. That's 10 kilometers away from the irrigation scheme. Then in Chivu, unfortunately, they can't make bread, they can't mill. The wheat was transported 142 kilometers away to Harare to be milled. But then there's a company in Marondera which is called Proton. They also want wheat. So they took the same wheat from Chivu. So 142 plus 78 kilometers to Marondera. Only to mill it. And then we Proton, there's these trucks, 40-ton trucks. Now they load the bread, the honorable to bring it back to Chief to feed these 60 families, including yourself. That loaf of bread must cost $5. A kilometer ayakafamba akawandisa, only to be milled back and then come back. If we are to spare and enhance rural development, the communities in Chivu must be taught how to process their wheat at Chivu irrigation scheme, make bread, sell it amongst themselves. When we go to Musha, we eat chimodo, we eat mafete, we eat this. That's our economy. And that for us, when we are talking about rural development in the ministry, we are talking about inclusion of those communities. That is why you see, when you go through these documents, the document that we've given you, we talk about the Rural Development 8.0 programming, which is a cocktail of measures that we try to package to say, these, if we target these, we should be able to get some inclusion of our rural communities to enable them to be economic participants. So when we talk about Fuvudza, for example, we are not talking of honorable members, we're not talking of freebies. No, we are talking about a program which is very economic. Imagine this, the Fuvudza package is $100. A bag of tea, a bag of chalk, in a 10 kg bag. Maybe you put a knapsack. So if you put those numbers, what, $30, $15, so it comes to about $100. So we give them now, when we are giving Fuvudza, in 4 months' time, they harvest a ton from that Fuvudza plot. That ton is worth $390 US. Honorable Makamba, there is no investment where you put in $100 and harvest $390 in 4 months.
Minus the exorbitant interest which the financial institutions could have done.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
Quite-
still
quite viable.
we refine it, but it's not freebies, it's not subsidy, it's productive social investment, which we are doing. So the Fuvudza program is not for the vulnerables. It's for us to invest in our people. The 62% that we were talking about, they need to be included, and that's a launch pad for them. If they do one plot, they are economically included. If they do 2, 3, if they do it on a larger scale, they become real economic participants. So that's the Fuvudza programming, the way we see it in the ministry. Of course, I know when you are campaigning, you talk about this Fuvudza and all that. It's protective social investment. That's for the grains. For cotton, remember we used to have the white gold, which we must come back to and ensure that we are able to grow the white gold, ensuring that our farmers benefit from the sale of the cotton. We are busy, obviously, yes, there are problems with our cotton sector, but eventually we need to sort out the marketing issues so that the cotton communities continue to benefit from the white gold. Of course, our livestock subsector is critical. That's why you see in our Rural Development 8.0 programming, we put huge emphasis on tick grease to ensure that our cattle particularly are healthy. You could see from this year, going back a few years, that tick-borne diseases have become a real menace. January disease, we're going now into January, you will see cattle dying. Not because of hunger, but because of January disease. The January disease is just ticks that are now increasing in number because the drought is coming up and our cattle are grazing and so forth. So in January, the ticks will be so much, and we start to see the effects of tick bites on our cattle in January. That's why it's January disease. So we must ensure that we control ticks. That's why we, in the ministry, we give these 1 liter bottles of tick grease to every one of the 900,000 livestock farmers in this country, so that we control ticks. If we don't control for one, if one doesn't control, one farmer doesn't control, it will affect the whole head. So this is why it must be a national program, and it is. So that distribution continues to ensure that we continue to have our livestock head as a source of wealth. We also have under the livestock programming the poultry scheme, which we've distributed quite, we started this in 2022, and we've distributed over 1.7 million. The idea there is to say every household at least must have 10 chicks to produce eggs and meat and ensure nutritional security. The goat scheme, which is very popular, is also another program under the Rural Development 8.0 programming. Of course, the goat scheme, you know it by the courts, who are now, they are in there. And we have said that this is a key program for the country, and we don't want any abuse of such programs. So I will not comment further on that because it's sub judice, but they are there. They are now answering for what they did wrong. Suffice to say that from 2022, we have distributed over 7,000 goats. The idea was to say that when you go to the rural areas, you see these goats now which are very small, like chickens, and that is the pathetic situation. We had said that under this goats program, we will introduce good genetics, so the chiefs will get 3 male goats to ensure that under their in their kingdom, in their chief, they introduce good genetics. The headman will get 2, and the village head suburb will get 1 to introduce good genetics. That was the basic idea. But we ran into problems. But for where we have done it, that is what we want. Of course, we would want to track and see what is the impact of this, and we wanted that. Under the livestock programming as well is the community fisheries program, where we realized that if we talk of fish now, we will think of Kariba, Matemba, and we think of lake harvest. Those are the people that come to the shore. But in this country, we do have over 10,700 water bodies. Food will be also included. Chivu Dam included, Barawanyati included, Osborne included, upcoming Waishangani, Unji upcoming. All those water bodies are there, but what do they have? In our communities, we need, in this country, we need over 60,000 tons of fish a year. We are producing less than 20,000 tons with a big gap. Health-wise, we need our young people to eat health. White meats and fish is critical, but we're not producing enough. This is why this program for fisheries was introduced, to ensure that in every village we have access to fish. In all these dams, we have access to fish. But when you talk about fisheries, we're not just talking about Matemba and Brim. We're talking about a business of farming where fish become a business. In Chivu Dam, for example, we introduced the cage fishing program, where you have, in that water, a person can have a cage of fish. So they can rent a cage, get financing to rent a cage, fill that with 20,000 fish, put them in the water, feed them. After 6 months, the 25,000 fingerlings, they are now an average of 300 grams. After 6 months, times 25,000, that gives them, I don't know, my maths is failing me now, but it gives them almost 10 tons. Is it 1 ton? No, calculate, of fish. And multiply that by a kg. By, you know, a kg of fish times the, I don't know, I don't buy fish. The ladies and the women, you know, a kg of fish is probably $5. After 6 months, you have how much? We are encouraging our young people to venture into cage culture. These dams that we are talking about, they are land for putting businesses of fish. And we are encouraging young people in the rural areas, young people everywhere who need land, for example, to go there and utilize that land in water, grow fish, and get into these value chains and make money. The fish ponds that we are also encouraging, now I think we've seen a lot of proliferation of fish ponds in everywhere. The limitation has always been the fingerlings. And we have said that in every province we are putting a center. So Machi Central, we have Henderson, Masringo, we have Makowoli, Mati South, we have Matopos, Mati North, we have Lopane, Manitalands, we are putting at Coffee Research, Mashi East, there is something in Mrewa, and Manika Midlands, we have at Esigodin. So all those centers produce fingerlings. The idea for these fingerlings is for that, for farmers to have access, so that they can go take the fingerlings, put in their fish ponds. We've even said, let's not, the scientists were saying, do sex reversal so that the fingerlings don't breed. But we've said, let them breed, so that the farmers will continue to harvest if they feed. Leave the problem of feeding to the technocrats. How do you feed fish at different ages? That's their problem, they can research. But we want fish to be there, fish to the people. And those can be businesses where villagers can trade amongst themselves and make money. This, of course, is part of the Residential Rural Development Program, where you see we have said we have 35,000 villages in this country. And those 35,000 villages must be centers of production or of economic activity. So we said that in every village there should be a village business unit. And what is it? It is a center where there is an enabler called water. So water is the biggest enabler for agricultural production. So we drill a borehole in each village, that's the aim, 35,000. It will do many things. First, of course, is access to water. Second is access to the nutritional garden, the vegetable production. Third is this fish pond, which we can also integrate in the village business unit. Fourth is the fruit trees that we can already put in there. And fifth is running it as a business. And we have said, let's segregate these. They can be in a village, so let it be a company registered in the name of the village head. So they run it as a company. Let AFC, the bank, see business in small businesses like that. Let them finance the working capital, but teach these villagers what financial inclusion is, so that we can really empower these communities. Not only that, we have also said this is a good model. Let's put it and mainstream it to schools. So if you go to Murambinda B now in Murambinda A primary, you will see that what we put there at independence during the independence celebrations, we put a school, this business unit into the school, so we call them school business units. I was there 2 weeks ago. They are now in their second crop of green mealies. This is at Murambina, selling green mealies from April, and now they're in their second crop. There is, of course, they are El Nino induced drought. Those communities are eating green mealies, selling them, generating money. In the secondary school, it's the school kids who are running these businesses. Fish, they now know the types of fish, they grow green mealies, they grow beans. In the second cycle now. So the inclusion is massive for these business units. So the school business units, we have also gone to the Ministry of Youth, instituted the vocational training center business units, so that all those youths that are being trained already are empowered to know that they can run their agriculture as businesses. So those are some of the things, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, that we are doing. Of course, we don't refuse the innovations that farmers do at the local level. So the number 8 there, the Vision 2030 accelerator model, is key because it brings local innovations. The beekeeping, the non-agricultural activities that farmers might engage in, all those are really V30 accelerator modules that local people can do. Above that, we also as a ministry want to track. So these interventions that we are doing, of what impact are they? So we have put in what we call the Vision 2030 livelihoods tracker, which we call VOLT, to track the impact. If we come in with the GOAT scheme, so after a year, where are we? If we come in with the village business unit for that community, for that household, after a year, where are we? So we are able to track the impact of these interventions. So this is what we are doing in terms of empowerment of communities and for indigenous communities. We, of course, I would have loved to talk about indigenization, but in the rural areas, you predominantly find our people there. Lastly, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, the summer cropping that we are embarking on, which is, two things come on there. The first is that we must emphasize on the Fumvudza programming, particularly focusing on the climate change that we are really under, to say that what our farmers grow must be determined by the agroecological region that they are in. So the agroecological tailoring is critical, and that is the message that from a scientific point of view, we must, mainstream. Agroecological tailoring is key, from our farmers to the people that make the seeds. They must understand that some varieties are not for our climate, and reduce them. So the long season varieties, they must be reduced to become climate smart. The second thing is that we must emphasize on our traditional grains, which give us not only a yield, even under climate change, but they are also naturally nutritious, naturally biofortified. So we must emphasize on production of those. So it is incumbent upon all of us, including the Ministry of Agriculture, to innovate. How can we encourage our young people to eat traditional grains without thinking that they are medicine? So they will leave the traditional grains to us who are older to say, yet these are naturally biofortified. We must encourage them to eat. More importantly, let's allow them to innovate. Pasta from traditional grains, porridge from traditional grains, cereal from traditional grains, noodles from traditional grains, whatever. But let them innovate so that they can benefit from what we know, that these are naturally biofortified. I could go on and on, Chair, but I will stop here. The document is there, really putting everything in a nutshell of what we are doing in terms of our programming to ensure economic participation of the rural households, rural communities, women, youth included. We also have an Agric for She program, which of course, it's funded mainly by the First Lady. She runs with that, but we in the ministry, we really push the agenda that takes account of what is produced and how can we push what the women or the fair agenda can do. So when we talk about wheat production, we want to know, so how many hectares have been planted by the women? What have they produced? And it's easier to follow a value chain if you include the women there. The idea for us under Agric for She is to say that we must never see our women and girls carry a bucket of water for many kilometers in the rural areas. It's not good for us. We must empower them so that they also enjoy the benefits that their men counterparts enjoy. We must never see our women by the roadside selling tomatoes. That talks to market failure. We must ensure that we really focus on what we can do to ensure that participation, economic participation of our women. In Utoko, we must ensure that they understand that growing a tomato is not the end game and selling it by the roadside. Running just talks to failure of markets. We must ensure that we develop markets for our women to know that when they grow tomatoes, they should sell the tomato sauce and the tomato puree, and that it is possible for them to do that. So when we develop these rural industries, we must think of that in mind. And that is what we in the ministry we think about. Obviously, we put together recently, we created a whole directorate of business development, markets, and trade, which focus specifically on agriculture businesses, agricultural markets, and agricultural trade, so that we put a sharper focus on those issues. Last is that this drought has taught us that we must be innovative. We never again should we suffer in a drought. For some of you, many of you, we have known droughts every 10 years. Now you can tell us every 10 years you get drought, every 4 years you minor droughts, then count the droughts that have hit your areas. And then some members will then want to ask you, so what are you going to do about this drought, Professor Chief? I will tell you the truth that I was born in 1977. When the major one hit you in 1982, I was still 5 years old. Yeah, you did nothing. 1992, you again was a major drought. I was in Form 3. You did nothing. Now I am PS. You are my elders. You want me to. I rest my case there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's interesting, and really, it's not like there's something in the ground that is happening. When you talk about drought, being this drought, so the way you telling the honorables that they are on the ground with the people, I'm sure things will go well after this meeting. So I will take this opportunity. I think before I give the honorables, maybe they want to hear more. Maybe there's someone that you heard from your side. No.
Maybe, thank you, Chair. But I know the engineer has not taken his oath, but maybe you might need to talk about the mechanization programs which are suitable for the rural communities. But you didn't take your oath.
Well, I think we can give him the time to take the oath. I don't want this bringing it very special. Thank you. Oh, I have to give the Bible. Yeah. Okay. So I, Adrian Samuel Zimuna, swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing else but the truth. So help me God. Okay, so I've always said that when you look at the programming in government, when we talk of social investments, usually social investments don't result in economic businesses and economic business sense, especially for those that would want to finance and see sustainability of businesses. And as a means of production, we've always said that for you to talk about industrialization, you have to look at the machinery side and the equipment as the means of whatever it is that you want to produce. Why this is where, the biggest investment in terms of money goes. This is where the capital in most cases lies. And you realize that as government and through your ministry, what we have done is to look at all the spectrums of the population and the demographics of the population of Zimbabwe to say, how best then do we capitalize the individuals the farmers, the groups, as well as the communities. And underlying all these programs that my peers spoke about is the enabler, which is your machinery and your equipment used in production. So for Pfumvudza, which is the flagship throughout the country, what we have come up with is what we call the Pfumvudza mechanization model, or the Pfumvudza mechanization facility. You will see that this one is a $6 million facility, and we have encouraged our rural folk to either stand alone or amalgamate as cooperatives, or stand in as groups of youth and women to register companies that offer a service. Tamutaura tikati mukanda kumusha, you see mbudzi nenge huku. The same also applies to our cattle. Isusu takakura tiziva kuti ukamuka unobata kecho neng'ombe. But when you go back to look at the cattle today, they also now look like mbudzi. And kuti ndichati inini mai kana sisi vangu vange vachinda mumunda vakabata badza zvatiri kuita becomes, retrogressive. So for our women, you go to Women's Empowerment Bank, you then get a package where you have got a tractor, my implements like plows, my fiscaros, my threshers, the lorry, and all those other things that then do the value addition component. If you are doing sunflower, you will also get oil expressors. Why we want economic participation for these groups as companies. And so this is a Pfumvudza mechanization model, which has been penned by government and is actually being distributed through Women's Bank. For youth, we have got a special treatment where you go to the Empower Bank. Now for the Empower Bank, that's where anyone between 18 to 40 goes. There is no need for collateral when you then go to these banks, especially for women and for youth. What you are doing is when you get there, like I said, as an individual, as a cooperative, or as a group of people that have formed a company, you also benefit the same equipment. You also come up, we've also come up, with various other facilities. I think you've heard of the flagship Belarus program that the president runs. And with that flagship program, we have taken out the need for collateral for any farmer, as long as you are a Zimbabwean. And even if you don't want to farm, because you've got people like me, vakarwadza nebadza stereki. Kuti ndikanzi kurima, ndoti kurima kune mari hongu, asi inini pandakarima pakakwana. Ndakuda kuti ndichibetsera akudini anorima. So we've taken out the collateral element, and we have simply said, to show commitment on the part of those that want to benefit, pay 10, 15 or 20%. The rest you structure based on kuwana kwako and the returns on your business model. What is it that you want to do? Moda kunorimira mamwe madzimai here, hongu, okay, pane tractor iripo ine ma-attachments. Kurima kunoita $100 per hectare, kana uchisa disk. Kunoita $120 per hectare uchisa disk. Moment unongoita 10 or 20 hectares, you have covered enough money to pay for your what? Installment. Is okay? And you are making money. And all these banks that I've spoken about are there to assist you, because we've realized it's not everyone that needs to farm. The same terms also apply. Over and above that, we are now also coming up with what we call the Agro-Energy Fund. Why Agro-Energy Fund? All the development and production in Twitter, even if you want to do irrigation, you cannot irrigate without energy. And it's not a secret that energy has been a big challenge in Zimbabwe. But now, with the International Renewable Energy Agency, together with the Ministry of Energy and Power Development, we have structured something specifically for agriculture and specifically for rural households doing below 5 to what? Between 0.3 to 6 hectares. Zvinokava futi ma-A1. Kana muchida kunge muchita irrigation, muchapuwa a package which also facilitates your energy requirement, not only for farming, but also for value addition. Shima Oil Express, it has to be a business. And ultimately, that's where industrialization starts, with small industries at micro as well as at pico level within our villages and communities. Thank you, Piers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. This is sounding good. I was looking at this document that has a lot of things that are written there. So it's a very powerful document. I think our honorables, they are already going through, but they need time. Because most as Zimbabweans we know, who are good on writing, who are good to structure. So I will take this opportunity and give the honorables to say the errand, what is really happening on the ground, also on the minister. Yes, it's time for question, honorables. You need to be free. Even our visitors there, they need to be free. So you need to be free. Here it's not a court. We just want to make sure that we work together. There's something that is very important when they start talking, that as a committee, I think it's important also be involved in the ground to see exactly what is happening. I will give the honorable some.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask a question. How much influence have you distributed to households as of today under the Fumbuza or Intwasa program for the 2025 agriculture season? Thank you.
Okay, I will try to take maybe before I give you.
I don't know why I always forget to switch on my mic when we're here. Mr. Jerry, the government has indicated that there might come new changes in agriculture. We shall make land transferable to someone else. What is your opinion with regards to this if it is implemented? Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Swanda. Honorable Suzanne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Professor Jiri and your team for a very comprehensive presentation that you have laid on our tables. However, I've got a question I'm quite excited about what I've read and what I've heard. However, I seem to see that, might be wrong, that emphasis seems to be on the production side of issues. For me, in the markets, what naturally just promotes production is capacity to find markets. So you've got presidential got scheme, presidential this, presidential the next one. I think if we had a presidential produce more path program where everything that is produced in the village is mocked up and found a market for, that would just naturally accelerate people's appetite to keep in production. I remember you were talking 1977, we were good boys by that time. And ku village, munanga produce a bucket renyemba. There was always a sender where you took it to consolidate that in market. If you produce 10 tomatoes, there was an opportunity to consolidate that at a sender, and then on market it, building some sort of critical mass around the small things that people did at household level. What strategies are you putting in place? I know you have mentioned, but I would like to know whether you have got as much zeal and energy and alacrity to develop that side of the equation as much as you do on the other, the marketing side of the equation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable. Honorable Bin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, to thank Professor Jiri and your team for a very interesting presentation. I have got two questions. One probably related to the previous question on marketing, but the other one more on your value addition. We hear quite a lot of efforts being made by Zimtrade promoting exports, but in so doing, coming back to the farmers and say, can you grow this, can you do this, can you do this? But at the same time, we understand there's also Agricultural Marketing Authority. Are they running the same? Are they complementing each other? But also to what the previous question I had said, is to say, you even made reference to it when you say you have women on the road selling tomatoes, when they should probably be producing. And there are people standing on the roads with tins of honey, when they should actually be producing. And there are so many hundreds of them, and they run for one car that stops there. Shouldn't that produce be directed to a place and they go back and do production? So that this one place then amalgamates this produce and directs that to where it is needed. And isn't that the role that government can do to provide that place where we all send that produce to? And we don't care where it goes to, but we know I will take it, just like people who produce grain and take it to the Grain Marketing Board. No one bothers to what happens to it, but there is a GMB to take my produce. Why can't we have a place where this produce can be taken so that we focus on production? Number two, which is to do, I think it's a good concept in terms of your village business units, which makes people accept that farming is a business because they see money coming in directly. However, I'm not so sure whether you are, because we also hear the Ministry of Industry, Commerce talking about rural industrialization. And the Ministry of Agriculture is talking about village business units. Are we talking about the same thing? To what extent are the two ministries working together to make sure that, yes, there is production, but at the same time, there is value addition and promotion of industries at a village level? And that your experts who are really more into making sure that they produce, they are not then be diverting into making sure that there is value addition, there is manufacturing. But I thought those two questions, one on marketing and one on rural business units, probably you would want to shed more light. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable. I'll take this time to give the Professor Jill.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, honorable members. So in terms, I think, Honorable Chitamba, you asked about how many, the quantity of inputs which have been distributed. So I think that's on page, it's on table 4. It's 5 December. That is what has been distributed. Compound D in table 4, page 17, table 4. So those are the one aspect. To say that we will never be able to give enough inputs for everyone. It's simply not possible. Also to say that whilst we are talking about 3.5 million beneficiaries who get these inputs. So it's a huge figure, and it's also a huge logistical nightmare. But I think we have done what decision was taken was to say that to expedite for inputs that have gone out, let's have a basic amount that is sufficient for a person or a farmer to do a plot of cereal. So that is why you see we said let's have if 50 kg is there, let them share it by half, that's 25. If goods a plot requires 16 kgs, so they should be able to do at least 10 goods a plot. For seed, there is no problem. The seed is enough. Fertilizer, that's where the challenges are. The challenges emanate from the debt overhead that we have done over the years. But I think the Punguza programming will never be without drama. Obviously, the abuse is always there because even thieves see opportunities. So some will have said, one of the deputy ministers in the ministry phoned to say, but this big person is abusing inputs. I said, deputy minister, we're calling the wrong person, call the police. Because we must just ensure that this abuse of inputs stops. So we really appreciate your help every time you are in those communities. So I think the inputs are going out. So far so good, they will never be enough, but we are trying our best. In terms of the land tenure explanation that you want me to give, this one, yeah, it was a statement from His Excellency the President. I am not sure if I am fit to really explain that one. Suffice to say that I think we, as the statement said, we need to make our tenure documents really bankable, and they should sweat for the farm so that we complete that loop of our land reform. So I think it's information will come from the people that put out the statement. But as agriculture, yes, we are fully involved in ensuring that the process, until we are allowed to explain further on it, is technically sound as we advise. I will now go to the softer issues which I can explain. Honorable Zai, you talked about the markets and market. Yeah, and the market for livestock, as a market for all our produce, Ajita and Raisho and so forth. now time yeshota kuenda uchindotenga zvinhu zvine diversity as much as possible. The Agricultural Marketing Authority was created specifically for this, to ensure that there is access to markets, there is creation of markets. The first time the first village business unit was launched at Makorokoro in South Mabanda. Yeah. It made so much money that the manager who was put there left his job with the ad, because you got there. Time I went there, I think it was about 6 months later. They were making their books 16,000 rand, 20,000 rand, and so forth. This manager left because he was working for one of the parastatals. He said, let me go and put my garden and tap into this South African market and make more money for myself. So he left. It was so much money. The second one, which was put, was at Spambi in Machine. Now it is Spambi in Machine, but the reason why I'm saying it is because we put in there 1 hectare of rep at the time of the launch. This rep grew at the same time, and in 2 months' time, Masvingo was literally flooded with rep. No one wanted to buy rep at the price that it was selling. So they ended up giving away this rep because there was so much for it. That showed us the failure of markets or the failure of production, whichever way you want to put it. But you are so right, Honorable Zuzai, to say that maybe we need a residential market something. In the ministry, we also realized that is why we put together a department now, which I said is called Business Development, Markets and Trade, looking at both, firstly, our local markets for all these things that we are doing, and also looking at the external markets. If the chairman of the Agricultural Marketing Authority is the CEO of Zimtrade, that's how we were thinking, to say, apart from the local markets, let the CEO of Zimtrade bring in this expertise to be able to tap into the external markets. Whether it has happened or not, I think we will still need to see. But yes, the real issue is we need markets. We have a program which we call Zim Shape in the ministry, funded by the SHEP, SHEP, smallholder, what is it? Horticultural export program funded by the Japanese. The concept is grow to sell, not grow for sale. It's grow to sell. Essentially saying that whatever you grow must be defined by the market first, so that you grow to sell. Not to say, Mari Mama Cabbage, most of you want to market, you have your market, Wakuman. I didn't get to a failure. So they organize markets, SPA and so forth. When do you need, what do you need and when? Then they work backwards. So they grow to sell. So that happened in a few of the districts. We think it can be expanded. Obviously, in our horticulture programs, we have mainstreamed this, and we in our trainings, we are also teaching the same. We have also tried in a small way in conjunction with industry and so forth, the Mutoko Horticultural Center, to try and say tomatoes that have been produced now in the center work process, but now kubva pashayikwa magetsi, so madzimai aya akuenda zveparoad, so achida tikanyatsokufamba nokuda kumamwe mapropati center chavepo, Zagrinda Norton was another center which was put to ensure that we process our tomatoes as our Oram Road, and then it was crafted in such a way, specific variety. So it excluded again a lot, but I think that it's exactly the way to go, to establish these centers where we can value add our produce and ensure that we don't really sell raw materials. It's easier said than done that departments, different government ministries can work together. One of the key things that happened is that in our bid to ensure that our ministries, lands, agriculture, fisheries, water, and rural development, to ensure that we capture this rural development, we then said this rural development 8.0 is done. But as you could see, the rural development 8.0 cuts across many disciplines. We had said that we needed a director rural development. When we went to the Public Service Commission, they said, but there's already a director rural development in Ministry of Industry and Commerce. Is that what we need? Or we need someone with an agricultural focus. So, but then that opened up, for us to start to talk seriously with the industry and commerce, to say if it's raw industry, it must be agricultural. So let's talk and let's see where we can synergy. So yes, in a small way, we are trying to really work together. But it is important to say that rural development, if it's agriculturally based, then it must be driven from agriculture. And maybe industry and commerce can also come in specifically to give us expertise in terms of industrialization bit. How do we set up an industry? Because in agriculture, we focus too much on production. That's what we know best. But the other bits, we also need expertise from those MTAs. So there is no straight answer to this, but we are learning. We wish to use our agriculture to grow our economy and our GDP. We have always said that in terms of, in line with devolution, we mustn't count devolution as money that goes to a profit from central government. But we must account for devolution by saying that, so this wheat that Material in South is produced, it had the mango. How much has this wheat contributed to the GDP of Mad South? That's what we must say. So that's how we look at it. Or if it's an irrigation scheme, Sebastian, how much has this contributed to the GDP of Mad South? So I think I tried to answer all the length tenure, which I think that one, please spare me.
Just let's say follow up and just following up on table number 4. I noticed there that soybean, for example, is one of the lowest in terms of inputs going out to the local farmers, and yet with the chicken program, goat programs, beef, eggs, milk, whatever, the key input is byproduct of soybean. Is ministry not thinking of expanding this, because there is a lot of value, in my opinion, that can be attained from promoting significant interest in soybean, even at local level, so that when they do the chicken in Murambinga, in Bikita, they are not taking the soya feed from here. They are using their own locally produced feed.
Thank you, Honorable Sir. I think that was a follow-up question from the professor. We continue with the honorables. Still on the questions.
Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to thank the team for a very dedicated and presentation at citizens for agriculture to become a business. Sorry, my apologies. I would like to thank the team for a very educative and informative presentation. But for citizens, for business, for agriculture to become a profitable business, they need some training. From what you've just said, currently, do you have any trainings on the ground for people to make this thing profitable and viable?
Thank you, Honorable. Honorable.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the team for creating time to come and make presentations to us. Excuse my language, I speak Tonga. It's like your presentation, you just went into my mind because the questions I had were answered from this presentation here. But on a lighter note, you said you talked of the 70s as the time you made your grand entry, and we asked you, we already had experienced a drought, and we asked you what we should do when we were older than you. Yeah, we talk of the 60s as our when we made our grand entry, but then that's we call you Prof. That's the reason why we call you Prof, because the books you read, we never read them. And when we hear that title, we just tell ourselves that he has the answers. So my question had been, I don't know if it was fully answered or I'll just have to say it. I wanted to ask what it is that vis-a-vis the climate change, if there are any measures that you have put in place as a ministry to ensure that such negative effects will not affect households in the future. I had two questions, but this one, I don't know if you answered it. Then the first one, I know you answered it because you said those girls are in the courts and they are answering for what they did. That was my other question, because it was on the Haifa and GOTS scheme. So I don't know, you talked about the communal goods. I don't know if it also includes the cattle. So if the cattle is not included in the goods, maybe you could answer us and just finish us on like how many people, if you can, how many people have benefited so far. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable. Before I give the professor someone again to ask the question. Okay, we will come for another round and just give the professor they say it as the professor is already knows everything. And I always say in Zimbabwe we have more professors, a lot of them, and I don't know where we go wrong when those people are very important. I think I'll give to the professor.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you, Honorable Members. Yes, in Zimbabwe we have a lot of professors, but in the world, the highest concentration of professors per square meter in the entire world is in Bihita district. I would like to
so many.
That's another Bihita again. So, Honorable Kawondo, I think I will start with you. The Haifa scheme. That is, so when it started, it was the 700 cattle that were given to the youth by the president. I think it's in February. So these 700, they were now given to 70 each to each province, specifically for the youth. We caretaked them from 2022 up to this year, when they had multiplied enough for us to be able to give to the youth. So they were now distributed to the youth through the Ministry of Youth. So we did that program for handover at Grasslands months back. So these were ordinarily kept at the youth hubs in each province. But now the individual cattle have now been distributed to the youth through the Ministry of Youth. Suffice to say that these youth hubs, the youth centers, we call them integrated youth centers, because they should be a center for multiplication, not only of the cattle, which they did, but of our goats, of the poultry, and they should be centers for training our youths in agricultural enterprises. So that is the aim. That's what we are doing at these centers. So in terms of the AFAS, I think we did the part, caretake them, making sure that they don't die, and made sure that we take them over in good standing. So that is what we basically did, but they are now handed over to the youth. The AFAS. In terms of climate change, I touched a bit on this, but you could see that in this year's budget, which agriculture got quite a chunk, 88.4% of the budget came to agriculture, but still not enough, because our programs are quite intensive and we need to respond to climate change. If we are not going to be affected again by El Nino, we must de-link our production from the weather. That's responding to climate change. So the budget this year, I think their theme was resilience building, blah 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 blah. Obviously, resilience to me should be an agricultural term, which says resilience is the ability to come back to the same or better level after a shock. And so we need that. So our programming as agriculture focuses on 5 things. One is the irrigation development, which we are, we are saying we must grow our irrigation to the levels of 350,000 hectares for cereals production only. If we just produce our maize, 350,000 will get enough for our country. We will never want to import anything again in terms of food. Secondly is the dams that we are constructing. We've said let's reduce our appetite to build many dams. Let's just remain with the 2. Waishangani, which if completed, that will change the face of agriculture in this country. The best agriculture will come from that region on account of Waishangani Dam. The second dam is the Punch, which of course, apart from the irrigation, it will assist in the water for Harare. The third program in terms of response to climate change is the cropping trust, which I already said we are looking at agroecological matching in the promotion of traditional grains. The fourth one is the livestock agenda, where we are saying let's develop our livestock so that it also is resilient to climate change. Promotion of the small stock, poultry, goats, and livestock. And of course, the last one is the rural development 8.0, which I've also explained. So that's basically how we are responding to climate change, among other things that we also need to climate proof. Honorable Sudzai, you asked further about the soybean. So when we're doing our programming as ministry, our main thrust where we support is the rural farmers, the smallholder farmers. That's the main thrust. And then, of course, we are cognizant of the commercial farming sector. In the commercial farming sector is where these commercial crops, soybean, wheat, that's the mainstay there, blueberry and so forth. Unfortunately, soybean is deemed commercial. Although in our programming we have a huge thrust for our focus in cropping is on 3 fronts: it's food security, it's feed security, it's oilseed security. In terms of soybean, we think that it can contribute a lot, not to oilseed security, but to feed, like you said, and that is the thrust. We have said most of the soybean should be supported under the private contractor arrangement who are in there for the business of farming. So most of what you see there is what we give under the presidential programs. The little amount of soybean is to irrigation schemes, basically. But again, soybean does well in the high belt. So most of the irrigation schemes are unfortunately not in the high belt. So they are found on the other side where we can grow soybean. So that's why you find under the presidential support schemes, soybean is really minimal, but we know it's there. Honorable Chikambuda, you talked about training. So yes, in terms of agriculture, training is a continuous process in all disciplines. That's why you see madumeni ariko kwelimu futhi. Basarawo madumeni train abantu. So we said there should be a farmer field school to try and contextualize our training. So there should be a farmer field school in every village where the sub brings their people to a common school, a farmer field school. The architect's officer, the vet officer, the irrigation officer, they all come there to train these villagers. So it's a farmer field school. So that's what we are emphasizing. And just like in the village business units, we want these 35,000 farmer field schools to be instituted and to train. So when we send a message to say, we send the same message to all the farmer field schools, and every villager will get the same message. So that's the aim. It may not be working well now, but that's where we want it. So training is a major component in these various processes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Professor. What we do now, I think it will be a roundup, the last ones that may be some question for our meeting. I think I also have a question. I think the engineer there, they touch on the issue of empowerment of women in agriculture. We as the committee, what is very important is to see that our people on the ground citizens are empowered. Spoke about the bank that people when they need some tractors plowing. So far, we really shocked on the ground as people are staying most in rural areas. People they were given the inputs. We have old people, old women. They can't even dig
Now what is happening, they are suffering that the ministry, I think they were also supposed to help them with shelters. I still remember some years back where the village, they were given a tractor to make sure they help all other people. But now, people, they don't have something to plow. And they also, I don't know what the ministry, they are preparing because of the drought. Already, those input that they were giving people, they're already on the ground and there's no rain. And there's a disaster that he will also be facing same drought. So I don't know the ministry there, what's the help they would, because when you go to the bank, you need security. If you need security, most people like in rural areas, they even scared to go to the bank, thinking that when they're not paying back their tutors, they will be arrested. So that is the issue that is facing most of the people, that our people are suffering. And also I will want to know the minister, after all those good projects that you are talking about, are you tracking them? Are you go back after maybe 6 months or some 3 months to see that those projects are there? And also there is some organization that they were helping you, funding the agriculture, like World Vision. I was shocked last week when they were there giving people some voucher for $30. That there's some people that will come and sell them chicken. They don't give them much for buying food, for the feeding for chicken. They just give them to buy chicken. And those people, where they will get the food to feed those chickens. So that is also other problem, that our people will be given a small thing that tomorrow they won't do anything with it. Also, we have this law, that act that is coming for PVO. That we know a lot of organizations, they are helping agriculture. So what ministry they are ready for to make sure that they counter to finance their program, because now we've seen that a lot of organizations will not have permission to fund in this new chapter that we want to know from the. I think those are my questions. Later I will take Honorable Makamba to ask the other question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and compliments have been paid already to the professor. A very quick one. You know, they say the future belongs to young people. Can't believe it that I was once young, shouting JCJ on the radio. Now I'm an old man. Agriculture as a sector, is there any evidence that we have young people or more young people gravitating towards agriculture? Because you know agriculture, it doesn't have the glimmer, the shine of, say, you know, ICT, aviation, and other such, you know, industries. But is there any evidence that we have more and more people willingly, not forced by evidence of unemployment, gravitating and appreciating agriculture as a critical, you know, industry? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'll give this opportunity to Honorable Law.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Professor, for your presentation. Training enable citizens to treat agriculture as a business and run it profitably. Can you update the committee on the various trainings you are currently doing on the ground? Because I understand you are saying there should be some training
But are you doing training?
Sorry.
Are you doing trainings currently on the ground? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Love. Okay, also there's other issue mostly about dams. That is very important. What Professor said, that they are thinking that we have big dams, some like Changani, that they will be covering all these small dams. Because really we have small dams that they are helping on irrigations. And those dams, when they were started built, I think in 1986, 87, they were very big dams and very good production. But now we are facing that those dams, they were supposed to be cleaned up. Now they are not carrying capacity for what they were carrying before. I want to know about the ministry that there was no any other plans that they will make sure that to clean up those dams, that the small irrigation also they will help on the sustain for helping those irrigation that they have. I think this is the last way we are rounding now. I don't know, there's other honorable that they want to say something before I give the professor for the last. It looks everyone is happy. Thank you very much. I'll give this opportunity to the professor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, honorable members. I will answer a bit, then I will give the Chief Director for mechanization and I think the Chief Director for VET to say a few words as well. Regarding the working with the NGOs and other PVOs, it's critical. I will give you a scenario that as the ministry in the previous budget, our budget bid was 118 billion, and we got 22.9 billion. It just shows you that we don't have enough resources. So we need these development partners to help us do other programs. And this is critical. One of the key reasons why we also said, let's have this business development side to help us raise resources to cover this gap. We are working together with the NGOs, but maybe not as much. But we have seen that for the village business units concept, for example, some of the NGOs which work in the rural areas have taken up the concept and started, putting their nutritional gadgets as the VBUs that we are pushing. So, patient care, Takunda, they've really taken this concept in a big way to ensure that in a village they put it as a business. Now they have lots of trainings. Now they are putting solar and so forth, just like we do our VBUs. So we're working together with them in a big way. Of course, we need to do more to ensure that we really get resources structured. If anyone is coming in the space of agriculture, they must dovetail with our programming and our thinking. And that is how we want these resources from NGOs to be channeled, so that if we are now focusing on the 5 things that I alluded to, that this is our focus, then anyone who comes into that agricultural space this coming year must dovetail with our areas of focus, including these development partners. But yes, they do play a critical role in terms of our funding and covering the gap. Of course, we wish that next week when you debate the finance bill, you also bring to the fore that this ministry is doing a lot. It deserves much more than the 22.5, 22.9 billion we got. If they can put all the money in agriculture, you know what will happen? We develop all our dams, develop all our health schemes, have enough food in this country. Then we will begin to export and bring money to the country. We won't need this much. But as long as the Rwanda is not finished, we will continue to need 4 million every month to be able to finish it. But if we just finish Rwanda, we will unlock huge potential and we will bring back money to the fiscus. That's the argument that I can tell you to use when you debate the dams that you are talking about. Yes, this siltation is a major problem. And, but then from the engineers, they tell us that to de-silt using those dam scoopers, it's almost like building another dam, because you are removing all that silt with this equipment, put it somewhere which is another mound, almost like another dam. And then after a few years, you have the same silt again. So it's a I don't want to say worthless effort. It's useful when you do it in Papo, but immediately you are opening more space for more silt. And the problem is really our upstream activities, upstream agriculture activity, which we need to deal with to avoid siltation in the first place. I think you also saw our efforts in terms of the alluvial mining and the river reclamation efforts that we are doing, where these miners are going into alluvial mining and mining in the rivers. So a river owns one river. It's a menace. We need to deal with those activities to avoid siltation. But where we also see merit, we do dam scooping, but it's expensive. And if you give us more resources in the budget, we put dam scoopers. But when we are faced with 8.4% of our natural requirement, then don't buy the dam scoopers. So we continue to have the same problem. The young people, Honorable Makamba, who has left, it's difficult. Worldwide, young people shun agriculture because they think it's a dirty job, it's a dirty industry. But in Zimbabwe, we also see a lot of interest from young people in agriculture. One of the fully subscribed enrollments at universities and so forth is the faculties of agriculture. We're really showing that there is some interest in agriculture, whether they will go into practice or they want the academic side. It really now depends on choices and how we excite the young people to go into practice. But Education 5.0 is refocused a bit to say, yes, you can actually produce your own sheep, your own poultry, your own crops, and make money. Of course, our agricultural colleges also play a major role in producing these practitioners. But it's always a difficult industry. You need to produce, you need land. How do you motivate the young kids to get into cage fish, cage culture for fisheries? How do you motivate them to go and practice their chemistry at Chifu, where they can mill test, a chemistry and go test it's good quality. How do you get a chemist to go and stay in Chifu and ensure that the meal a flour produced from wood is of good quality. That's what we need to develop if we develop these rural industries. It's also a way of getting these youngsters to love to stay there. What do they want? They need First Life, they need Magezi, they need good source of water, they need Wi-Fi. So all those things are what we must bring to them out there and make them excited. So it's not a one answer thing, but it's really something we need to continuously work on. Lastly, I think training on the ground, what we are doing a lot. This is, I can spend the whole day talking about. Right now, they are being trained on Funvoza tenets. They are being trained on livestock feed. I think over the last few months, it was urea treatment, how we can enhance the quality of feed, training on livestock diseases, and so forth. So training is continuous. Every week we train how many people, how many farmers have been trained and on what. So we see it's really continuous all the time with our people. I think that would be it. Any additions from the Chief Director?